Uh, so I thought I was going to do like maybe one post a day, and it just didn't seem like that was going to be sufficient. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out um, the best way to kind of go about doing this and sharing my experience with you guys. Um, because my mind changes like every 15 minutes. So, I think there's just like different pivotal moments in each part of my day that I'm affected, that my mind just starts wandering and going. And so, in those moments, I have to take it captive, right? I think we talked about that yesterday. Um, and then reframing it. And Anyway, so I thought maybe I just do these blog posts or whatever, kind of like confessionals throughout the day. Um, so I do want to say yesterday was mine and Matt's, or Matt and I's, 10-year wedding anniversary. Um, Yay, we made it. We made it another year. I feel like I say that every year. Yesterday was also my Wello's birthday, and my grandfather, he passed back in August. And so it was kind of bittersweet of a day for me. Um, I can't believe we made it to 10 years. And I think this last week I was having just that anticipation of knowing that it was my Willow's birthday and he wasn't here with us. And, we usually celebrate him and Mother's Day kind of congruently. So him not being here this year is going to be really hard from a Mother's Day aspect, and just this part of the year. So I think that's messed with me a little bit. Struggling with that and just missing him so much. But I do want to talk about neglect and abandonment, how that plays a really big part in what I struggle with and what I deal with. So a lot of you, you think you know, but you don't know. So now you know. I think you can finish the rest of that little phrase that if you're a rap OG. Anyway, so I was born to teenage parents. They had me when they were 18 in high school. So I actually got an opportunity to talk to my Wella, which is my grandmother. Hi, Lukey. Over the Easter break.
Oh,
He is also here.
and Daddy's up. He's not here.
Daddy's not here. Somebody's got to pay the bills, right? Some of us are trying to work through stuff, and the rest of us, he has to make the money. So, anyway, and I'm very grateful for that too. Anyway, so I was born to teenage parents. I did have an opportunity to talk to my Wella over the Easter weekend and ask her just a couple of questions, but I kind of want to give you a background as to where I come from. I want to take you back to kind of my roots, how I grew up. I think a lot of you would be very, very, very surprised, shocked even. So my mom, my parents are both Hispanic, born on the east side of Midland, Texas. My mom came from a more impoverished household than my dad. My dad's family was probably a little more middle class Hispanic versus my mom's side. So my mom getting pregnant with me was a big shock. I know for her and her family it was hard. She was kind of the good kid. She had lots of hopes and dreams. She won like Miss Hispanic Queen something. I don't know. There's pictures of her and my dad as like Mr. and Mrs. Hispanic Lulac or something. Anyway, my parents were high school sweethearts. Believe it or not, I think a lot of them knew each other as a couple, from what I hear. So, so it wasn't like it was a one night stand or hit it quit it kind of situation. I do believe at one point they did love each other. So I came to be, and my dad was this aspiring athlete. His biggest hope and
And
dream
my
and goal.
daddy.
And your daddy too.
And I'm a scientist, everyone.
And you're a what?
A scientist,
He wants to
everyone.
be a scientist, everyone. Yeah. What are you going to do as a scientist?
Make potions.
What kind of potions?
Like green potions.
Green potions. Potions like medicina to help people get better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever you be a witch, those potions make sick people die. Like more sicky.
Yes.
And
Which potions make sick people more sicky? Yes. But not yours.
no.
No.
I'm adding medicinas.
You're adding medicinas to your potions. Yep. And what else? Some prayers to your medicina? Yeah. Are you
You want you want the witch bad potions or the good potions?
Comment down below. You want good potions or bad potions?
Oh, and see my video on Friday.
His video on Friday. Today is Friday. Anyway, so I'm multitasking. I'm momming and doing this. So anyway, so my dad's trying to be this professional athlete, and he baseball is his number one love. Baseball is his passion. Everyone knows that. I have friends that I grew up with whose parents went to high school with my parents that are just like, oh my gosh, your dad, all he did was work, work, work. Coach Reyes had a batting cage in his backyard, and Coach Reyes's kids wouldn't even use it. And your dad was always at Coach Reyes's house just hitting balls and till midnight. And while the rest of us are cruising Hogan Park and drinking and hanging out and doing all kinds of nonsense, right? Not my dad. My mom worked. My mom was a very, very hard worker. I don't know any one of you that knows my mom as not a hard worker. I feel like I compare myself a lot to my mom. My mom works 2 jobs now, not because she has to. You are a good worker. But because she wants to, because she doesn't like being bored, and she's a social bug. So it works out well for her. She kills it. She's an amazing human being. And so I feel like I have a lot of guilt because I measure myself up to my mom. And to me, my mom is, she's an incredible human being. She is a sole provider and caregiver for a cousin of mine who has cerebral palsy and is in a home, and it's a cousin of hers, and she just takes on so much for so many people. I feel like she's sometimes the hand and feet of Jesus, and my mom teaches me a lot. She's taught me how to.
And Mama teaches me how to be a scientist. When we made Jello, and we made Jello there.
We did make.
And all our guys are in there. And when you want to make potions, you get on your safety goggles and your hair and your gloves and an apron. So you won't hurt your clothes, so you don't sting your clothes or make your hands get in your hands in your eyes. And when you be good, you make lots of potions, like like fire made out of bricks, potions. Ding ding. My project question.
His imagination. um, so anyway, my mom's amazing. She does a lot for a lot of people, and she's the rock. She's hardcore. Um, my dad, my dad had to develop a really strict work habit, work ethic in order to make it to the major leagues, and he did. He got a full ride scholarship to Lubbock Christian University to play baseball, and I mean, everyone knew that's what he aspired to be. It was in his blood. His brother played, but due to an injury, he couldn't make it. And my grandfather, my great grandfather, I mean, baseball just runs pretty deep in our family. So I feel like my dad had a lot of the pressure to carry out kind of like this baseball legacy. Um, and he worked hard. I have videos, and I've had the pleasure of sitting down with some of his high school baseball coaches and college baseball coaches, and they all said, you know, your dad was definitely not a natural talent like your uncle was, but your dad's work ethic is unmatched. And so, while that's nice to hear, it's also a lot of pressure. Growing up being Randy Velarde's daughter was not the best. It wasn't fun. It wasn't easy. I got teased a lot. I wouldn't say teased. I caught a lot of shit from people, assuming they knew my situation. So anyway, my dad, they're 18, they have me. My dad's in college at this point. My mom is living with my dad's parents, and my mom worked at a bank during the day and then worked in a restaurant at night. So my great grandparents took care of me during the day, and then my grandparents took care of me in the evening time. Um, so I was going back and forth quite a bit. On my mom's days off, I would stay with her once she was able to move out and have her own apartment. Because my dad was on a full ride scholarship, they couldn't know that he had a kid, and there was fear that he might lose his baseball scholarship. So I was kept a secret. No one knew that that Randy had a kid. In fact, my Wella over Easter told me this really funny story. I said, I asked her, I was like, Wella, you know, how did you take the news when my dad told you that, you know, at 18 he was going to be a dad? And she's like, oh, Mija, she's like, your dad came in the house and he was wailing, crying, just crying so hard, and threw himself on the bed and was like, Mom, you're never going to believe what happened to me. And she's like, you know, with your dad loving baseball so much, she's like, I thought, oh no, he got injured, he got hurt, his baseball career is over. Is it drugs? Did you get kicked off the baseball team? She's like, I mean, just the worst thing that could ever happen to Randy was baseball being taken away from him. She's like, so finally, he calmed down enough and said, Christina's pregnant, which is my mom. And she was like, oh, that's it? Like, I thought you were hooked on drugs. I thought something with the baseball team, or you got kicked off, you got hurt. But yeah, no big deal. You know, I can deal with that. You know, I can take on another kid. So, you know, my Wella did just that. My Wella and Willow did everything they could as parents to protect my dad, and they helped my mom and my dad raising me. They made sure that if my mom needed anything for me, that that my mom went through my grandparents first before going to my dad. at this point, keeping my dad focused and solely concentrating on his schooling, his studies, and baseball was kind of top priority. So while my dad's in college, I don't really know much about him. I don't see him. Um, you know, I've heard stories, and then there's bits and pieces that I remember of like seeing him very sporadic, maybe like when he would come for the holidays, but he wasn't spending time with me. He was spending time with his friends or going out. Um, I feel very much, like it was, I shouldn't take it personal because everyone knew Randy's first love was always baseball. My mom understood that, but I think as a child, um, not being asked to be born into this world, and you don't ask for your own parents, they're just kind of given to you. I struggled with my dad never choosing me, my dad wanting to do um, other things, and rather than spend time with me. I was very loved as a kid. My grandparents, my great grandparents made me feel like um, I hung the moon and painted the sky, but not understanding like why my dad wouldn't love me that way. Like why couldn't my dad see me that way? My mom worked so much that she couldn't even really enjoy me as a person, as a kid. So as my mom got older and she was able to become a little bit more independent, and got her own apartment, I stayed more with her, going to school full time. But my mom was, she worked, she lived paycheck by paycheck, so we moved a lot. She had her own apartment, and then she started dating. She started seeing who is now my stepdad now, Jay. They've been married for almost 31 years. And at the same time, my dad started seeing and dating my stepmom, Jeannie, who she's been part of my life for the same amount of years, 31 years, 30 years, 31 years, something like that. So Jay and Jeannie have been a part of my life since I was 5, 6 years old. I didn't see my parents as it is. Like I said, I was raised by my grandparents and great grandparents. So having to share my parents with their new significant others was hard. I didn't know where I fit in. I felt now being older and realizing the responsibilities of an adult, I get where she's like, I need time for myself. I need to date. I need to, move on with my life. And the same with my dad. But as a kid, it sucks. It really does. You don't know where you fit in. So my dad and Jeannie get married. They have their own family. My mom and Jay get married. They have their own family. I say 1988 was the worst year of my life because my mom and Jay got married in August of 88, and then my dad and Jeannie got married November of 88, and then my first sibling, Marcus, was born in December of 88. So for 7 years, I was the only thing, the only kind of family that my mom had and my dad had, and I felt like they replaced me with other people and in another family. I know that that's not the case, but that's how it feels. I hate the holidays. The holidays are so hard for me. Being that my parents have their own families, my Velarde family, my dad, Jeannie, they'd get Christmas cards and they would say to Randy, Jeannie, Nico, and Bree. And there's no Jennifer. Or my mom and my stepdad's side of the family, it was to Jay, Christina, Marcus, and Danielle, Sertuche, and there's no Jennifer. It's hard. You don't know where you fit in. You don't know where you belong. The place that I did feel like I belonged was with my great grandparents and my grandparents. So, when I was 17 and I lost my great grandfather, that was the death of my father. That was the man that loved me. That was the man who did everything for me. That was the man who taught me what I thought what men were supposed to be like. With his death at 17, it messed me up pretty hard. My Velarde side of the family, we don't talk very much. Talk a bunch of mess, trash talk a lot, but to share emotions, or feelings, not so much. You just swallow it, you deal with it, sweep it under the rug. Again, I remember my mom telling me, she's like, Jennifer, anything that you do, and this is while I'm growing up, anything that you do, your dad's going to get wind of, and my abuela would tell me stuff like that, like, we just can't ruin your dad's concentration. So I felt like I couldn't really truly be myself because, God forbid, if I ruin my dad's concentration, he won't be in the starting lineup. He might get traded. He might get sent back down to AAA. So I carried a lot of that weight on my shoulder. Not seeing my dad in the starting lineup gave me so much anxiety, and I blamed it on myself. And I would rack my brain over and over and think, what did I do that day or the night before that I may have ruined his concentration, and being in that starting lineup? What did I do that, he wasn't able to perform his best at practice, or so I carried a lot of that weight. My mom would tell me, like, anything you do well in this life, your dad's going to get all the credit for it. Anything that you do shitty, anything that, not necessarily that you do wrong, but anything that you do that is not reflected in a good manner is going to reflect poorly on me, and it's going to be my fault. And she said, and it's not fair. She was like, but unfortunately that is, how society is. She's like, so make sure you go out there and you do your best, you act right. I always felt like someone was watching me. I always had that paranoia of like, there was stuff, and now as a parent, there's just things that especially coming from Midland. Everyone knows everyone. Like, my family is enormous, so anything that I did, anywhere I was, my mom, my dad, it would get to them in a heartbeat. But I didn't know that then. But I always felt like someone was always just watching me and always reporting back. And I felt like I never really truly lived my life and be me without severe repercussions. I didn't want to upset my mom. I didn't want my mom's life to be harder. And, I wanted my dad to be happy. And I thought what would make my dad happy was him starting in the lineup every single day, him playing not just for the Yankees, but, at just the most elite level. And, him not making it to an all-star game or having all these accolades or batting titles or golden gloves or whatever after his name, I felt a lot of guilt towards that. I feel like a lot of that was my fault. I do feel like if I wasn't born, he probably would have succeeded. He would have probably gotten a lot further in his career. So I carry a lot of that, and it messes me up a lot. I know now I have no control over that. I know that there was nothing that I could do. There was nothing I personally did to make my dad's life turn out the way that it did, good or bad. But try telling that to a little girl. I wanted so much to belong. So whenever Matt and I, decided to get married, I fought for my marriage so hard. This was the first place I thought, like, I truly belong. Like, this is going to be my family. This is, when I receive a Christmas card, it's going to have my name on it. So make sure if you send me a Christmas card, don't put Mr. and Mrs. Matthew Kelderman. Make sure my name is on there, okay? I'll take it personally. I'm just kidding. I'm working on it. But that's why I fight for my marriage so hard, because I want a place to belong. I want a place to have of my own. I want roots of my own. I don't want to move. I don't want to start fresh and clean all over again. I don't want to. I want what's mine. I want what is already mine. I want my family. I want to be part of it. There's still that little girl that wants to belong to one of those families or both. And when you get married, you're supposed to leave and then cleave to your man, right? Cleave to your marriage, leave your family behind. And I think that's missing. I've been still wanting so hard to feel a part of my Sertuche and my Velarde family that I'm not giving my husband, my Kelderman family, this family, all of me, because I'm still so broken. Both Matt and I want the same thing. It's not my place to tell his story and his issues and what he struggles with, but at the end of the day, we want the same thing. We want our family. We want this to work. We both come from divorced families, so we want to make sure that Luke doesn't grow up the way we did, that Luke won't have the same hurts and the same feelings of neglect or abandonment that Matt and I struggle with and hurt with so much. So I hope that this little confessional helps. I hope for those of you parents who have little ones that are caught in between two families, love them extra, will you? Let them know that they're so a part of your new clan. It's so important. Love them extra. Give them a hug. There is no emptier feeling than feeling of abandonment or neglect. And I know that my parents love me and they never meant for me to feel that way, but it's part of life. So I know I can't control everything, but the things that I can control, I want to. And if I can control